Right, so for today's video, we actually have a quick update to a situation we spoke about like a month ago at this point. And it was all surrounding two people mainly. The first person being Brookie Bakehouse. This is Brookie's account right here, 2 million followers on TikTok. And the second person was Nagi, and her Instagram account is recipe_tin with about 1.5 million followers. Now these are both Australian-based bakers, chefs, whatever you want to say. I mean, Brookie's bio says bakery owner. Nagi's bio says recipe creator with a website, 2 cookbooks, so on. Obviously there's more to it than that, but what you need to know here, the main thing is that these two people are both well known for making food. From what I can see, they both have some of the biggest recipe books in Australia. Now recently there was this big situation when Nagi actually called out Brookie for allegedly copying her recipes. We can see on this post by Nagi, it says, "When you see our recipes in a $4 million book, I have made allegations against Penguin Australia that the bestseller Bake with Brookie by Brooke Bellamy contains plagiarised recipes, including 2 of mine, caramel slice and baklava, as well as recipes by other authors." Now someone else who actually called out Brookie was Sally's Bake Blog, who posted this on Instagram saying, "Nagi, you know how much I admire and support you. I'm so grateful you let me know months ago that one of my recipes, the best vanilla cake I've ever had, published by me in 2019, was also plagiarised in this book and also appears on the author's YouTube channel." And we can see a side-by-side comparison here with the ingredients, and they are very, very similar, almost identical, to the point where you can see this one from Sally, it says in brackets, "yes, a tablespoon," and then again on Brookie's, it says in brackets, "yes, a tablespoon." On Nagi's website, she went into more details about her recipes that she believes are stolen. There's this one here, that's a caramel slice, and we can see a side-by-side again. On the left, it's Nagi's recipe, on the right, it's Brookie's. And we can see they're pretty much identical, like the measurements and everything is identical. There's some odd words that are slightly different, like on Nagi's, for example, it says 80 grams of brown sugar, but on Brookie's, it says 80 grams of light brown sugar. We also see a side-by-side of the instructions, which again, are very, very similar. I mean, they're pretty much the same instructions, they're just like odd words that are different. Like for example, on Nagi's, it says, "Once bubbles start appearing, whisk for 1 minute, then pour into base, tilt pan to spread evenly." Then on Brookie's, it says, "Once bubbles start to appear, whisk vigorously for 1 minute before removing from the heat and pouring over the base." Another recipe that Nagi believes was stolen was her baklava, as we can see right here, the ingredients list, again, very similar. I mean, almost identical, again, with like odd words changed. We can also see like the orders changed slightly as well, right? So on Nagi's, it says 285 grams of unsalted butter. Then it says 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder. But on Brookie's, it's the opposite way around. And then finally, we can see the instructions on this one as well. On Nagi's, it says bake for 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes until golden brown. Meanwhile, make syrup. Then on Brookie's, it says bake in the oven for 1 hour or until golden brown. Meanwhile, make the syrup. And basically, the final update we had in that video was that Brookie did respond on an Instagram story with like a statement, and she basically denied these allegations. "I did not plagiarise any recipes in my book, which consists of 100 recipes I've created over many years since falling in love with baking as a child and growing up baking with my mum in our house kitchen." Brookie then went on to say that her caramel slice recipe she actually came up with in 2016. Nagi published her book in 2020. A lot of people believe that this statement was untrue because the recipe in 2016 was different, but that's kind of where we left the situation. Now, if you want to check out my previous video, I'd recommend that because I go into a lot more detail in that recap right there. That was more to just kind of like refresh your memories as to what actually happened here. Now, this situation blew up. It was making like mainstream Australian news. Like every news station was basically covering this. And since this all came to light, after that statement that we just read was posted, Brookie hasn't really been online. And also since then, Nagi won an award, which we'll have a look at. The only reason I'm even bringing this up is because it's kind of getting brought up in the comment section quite a lot on the newest response. We can see the book right here, Recipe Tin Eats Tonight, and it is the winner of the 2025 Australian Book Industry Awards, ABIA, Illustrated Book of the Year. Now, I guess the reason why this is brought up in the comment section a little bit later on is because when we actually look at the shortlist for this award, we can see Recipe Tin Eats Tonight, the book right here, but also we can see Bake with Brookie. So they're both shortlisted to potentially win this award. Now, when Nagi won this award, there was a bunch of articles that came out that all kind of mentioned this controversy on top of that. Like, for example, there's this article on The Guardian that says, "Recipe Tin Eats Nagi Meashi," I'm so sorry I pronounced that wrong, "beats Brooke Bellamy at Publishing Industry Awards amid plagiarism allegations." Which is pretty shitty for Nagi, right? Because it's not just saying, like, Nagi's won an award, it's saying she's won an award whilst this plagiarism, like, controversy is happening. And I guess it is also articles like this as to why we will see the comments later on. Now, the big update here is that Brooke has actually came back to social media and has posted video to her social media platforms. We're looking at her video on TikTok here, and it's kind of like the first time she's addressed this situation, like, verbally. Now, Brookie starts off by saying that she's been away for a while and she's never experienced, like, a situation like this before.
Since opening my bakery 3 years ago and sharing my life life online. I've never had such a long break between videos, but I've also never experienced something like I have over the last few weeks.
Then Brookie goes on to explain kind of why she started baking, says that she's took a lot of inspiration from people, like from all of the best bakeries.
All my life, I've dreamed of owning my own business, and because I love eating sweets and learning how to make them, I opened my bakery a few years ago. Before this, I was traveling the world in search of the best bakeries, and I have been so inspired and influenced by bakeries and bakers the world over.
And then goes on to talk about how her mum's been a big inspiration, they've been baking together. A lot of the recipes that Brookie still makes to this day have been like passed down generations from like friends and family, so she can't say that she created any of these recipes.
But the biggest inspiration in my life is my mum, because I learned to cook and bake with her in the kitchen growing up, and when I was invited to write a cookbook, I was really excited to share all of the recipes that I've been making since I was small. These recipes have been written down on paper, been handed to me by friends and family, they get passed down through generations, they get scaled up and scaled down in the bakery setting, and while all of these recipes are personal to me, I cannot say that I have invented the cookies, cupcakes, brownies, or cakes in the recipe book. They are all inspired from somewhere and someone before me.
Yeah, I guess the issue that most people had wasn't the fact that like the recipes were like very similar. It was more to do with the fact that it did seem like a lot of it was maybe copy and pasted with some like keywords changed here and there. Like it wasn't just the case that the ingredients were the same, right? It was also like the instructions where the way the worded and everything was very, very similar. Because of course, there's only so many ways you can make a caramel slice, for example, right? But when you combine the fact that the recipes were pretty much identical on top of the fact that the instructions were almost identical as well, and I mean, maybe it's the craziest coincidence, right? But it did seem like the instructions were maybe taken from another book and then some words were changed. Now, we obviously don't know where this is going to go, right? I don't even know if like MARKIE is proceeding with legal actions. Obviously, there was like a lot of talk about lawyers. MARKIE was even mentioning lawyers previously. So I don't know if it's going to go any further, and quite frankly, I don't even know what would happen in that case. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but also we are talking about recipes here, and like I mentioned, there is only so many ways you can make certain foods. So I guess it would kind of go down to like how much weight would you hold on the fact that the instructions are very similar. The measurements for the ingredients are also pretty much identical. Like, would you be able to prove 100% that they were copied in court? I don't know, because I'm not a lawyer. But also, it might not even be going down that route anymore, right? So that might just be irrelevant at this point. Like, I don't think Brookie's career should be over by any means, right? But obviously, I think from the criticism that we're seeing, it would be nice for a lot of people if there was maybe some credit given, if the recipes were actually taken from MARKIE's book, which, to be honest, in my opinion, it does feel like they were, just because of like the specific wording with how similar they are, not just because they've both made a caramel slice. But either way, the video carries on, and Brookie says like she doesn't like the narrative of two women kind of like being put against each other, then goes on to say that food should be a shared experience.
They are all inspired from somewhere and someone before me. I never subscribe to be a part of a narrative that pits two women against each other, especially in the same industry. I think there's room for everyone, especially more women in business. So I guess that's all I'm gonna say about it, because food for me has and always will be inherently a shared experience.
Yeah, I think on that note of them kind of being like put against each other, I do feel like it's kind of went a bit far at this point. Like, we're talking about articles that are mentioning that MARKIE's won an award, but suddenly the article's actually just talking about how MARKIE beat Brookie to the award. So I don't think it has to be a thing for the rest of time, right, where whenever one of them does something good, it's like, oh, the other person didn't do this. But of course, that's probably how it's going to be for a little while, because obviously MARKIE did call out Brookie. It did become this massive situation. Again, was a big situation like in the mainstream news in Australia. So it's unfortunate, but it feels like it probably is going to go down that route for a little while. But either way, Brookie then goes on to end the video.
Sharing my days in the bakery with people from all over the world who maybe one day dream of owning their own business or bakery, and part of that has been sharing the recipes that have shaped me and my career. So after a few weeks off to pause and reflect, it's time to get back into the bakery, because this is why I came here in the first place, to share my love for baking with you all.
Yeah, so looking at the comments on this video, it is very much a mixed bag, especially on TikTok. Actually on Instagram, it does seem like a lot more in favour of Brookie, which we'll get into. But first of all, looking at TikTok, we see comments like this one saying, I'm confused, your recipes are inspired by somewhere and someone, so why not give credit? Your recipes are identical to MARKIE. Yeah, also on that note, there was a lot of people mentioning in the last video that there was also an error on MARKIE's recipe that was also included in Brookie's, apparently. Maybe I just missed that bit, but I remember seeing a lot of comments about that in the last video. But again, looking at the comments, there's more similar ones like this one saying they are all inspired from somewhere and someone before me. That's when you give credit where credit is due. Another one on here saying I feel gaslit, but then on the flip side, there's a lot of people that are on Brookie's side, like this comment here saying, cannot believe the hate that this woman is copping. They're recipes for very basic things. You could flick open about 50 cookbooks and find the same recipes just because she's made success out of it. So much jealousy. Another comment here saying, I'm sorry Brookie, from a woman who does not support tearing other women down. And finally another comment here saying, the whole thing was awful and ridiculous. You didn't deserve what happened at all. I stopped by this morning, will continue supporting because your cookies are yum and that's what matters. Now on Instagram, there's a lot of comments mentioning the fact that Nagi won this award, which is kind of why I mentioned it earlier. Like for example, one of the top comments on this video says, really interested that this drama all suddenly came to light a week before the author won Recipe Book of the Year, for which Bake with Brookie was also shortlisted. Glad to see you're back. Another comment saying, I stand with you Brookie, it just felt off to me that this whole thing blew up right before the book awarding. Anyway, you've worked so hard for your business and you are loved, keep going. So yeah, you can see on Instagram specifically in the comments on Brookie's video, which is the same video that was posted at TikTok by the way, there is a clear opinion for a lot of people that this only became a situation because this book award was coming up. I personally don't believe that's the case because it's not like Nagi came out with some like claims that just completely were untrue and didn't make sense or anything like that. There was some legs to them, right? But either way, I would love to know your opinion in the comment section down below on this whole situation, on the response itself, what do you think is going to happen now? Just all your opinions in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like on it, subscribe if you are new. Also, if you're interested in some other content, me and Emily have a channel where we play games, react to reality shows, stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of that, that's always linked in the description. And until the next one, I'll see you guys later. Alright, goodbye.